Hey everybody, we're back for another review of WandaVision. Today we're looking at the 5th episode on a very special episode, ... I actually, this morning before I sat down to watch it, I really should have. I wanted to pull up, do a little quick recording of some thoughts that had occurred to me since the previous episode, over the past 2 days. And one of them was like, all right, so what if the town is all people with like weird mutant abilities and things, and this is how they're introducing that into the MCU, and like Wanda's sort of a Professor X that's protecting them sort of thing, with like this whole like TV thing that they're in. Another one I had was like, all right, what if Agnes's husband Ralph is dead and she's just grieving too, like Wanda is over Vision. Another one that I had was, is Vision actually somebody else who's being forced to play the role of Vision in some way? And then the last one was, she was able to bring Vision back in some capacity. Could she bring Pietro back as well? So those were kind of my thoughts between the last episode and this one. And we'll jump in a second, but I need to definitely say that if you're interested in watching this show at all, I highly recommend turning off this video and going to watch it, because between the last episode and especially this one, the spoilers are pretty gigantic, and they're very the effect, the impact that they're going to leave on the MCU could be pretty giant. I'm still kind of figuring out like what is happening from here, but we'll get there as we get there. So the 80s aesthetic for this episode is really strong. They've already done the one set in the 50s, 60s, and 70s, and this one, our 4th episode within the TV world, is set kind of in the 80s. And I got it wrong twice. I don't know how I missed either. Well, I don't know how I missed, I guess, either of these as options for 80s sitcoms, because at the very least, the intro that we get is kind of a mashup of Family Ties, which is a show from the mid 80s. That's where we got Michael J. Fox really rose to prominence with that, and I think that was before Back to the Future as well, as Alex P. Keaton. I do not remember what any of the characters in that show did. I want to say the dad was like a teacher, but I might be wrong. About that. And then Growing Pains is the other one that the intro is a big thing for, and that one I don't remember much about. I can't remember his name, which is embarrassing, but like the actor who plays the dad from that show did like some game shows, I think. No, you know what? I think I'm like mixing up with Chuck Woolery. Yeah, I forget. Oh no, it's oh god, something Thicke, because Robin Thicke is his son. Can't remember. I don't remember what he does at all. Like I said, early sitcoms, they really didn't put a lot of emphasis on like what anyone was actually doing half the time. But yeah, so strong 80s aesthetic. When we see Agnes in this episode, she's in like jazzercise gear for it all and everything. These episodes are also getting longer. The first episode is like 20 some odd minutes long. This one is more like 33-ish, I think. They're growing rather quickly, and I'm wondering if this one being a special episode and also being directly in the center of the season is kind of what's going on with that. If the other episodes are going to go back to being 20 something minutes long for all of these. Wanda is seeming to lose control over the situation. So as of the last episode, we found out that Wanda is the one who's in control of everything. And over the course of this episode, she seems to be losing that control. We see that right at the beginning, where the babies, Tommy and Billy, are just crying, and they've apparently been crying for days, even though we kind of see through this episode and the last that like time in the show doesn't progress the way that time in the real world does. They say that it's been days since the babies started crying. They haven't slept, but this is it seems to literally be like the next day. We know it's certainly within a week of the previous episode's events overall. what's weird is, there's this cute little moment. Vision's got the pacifiers in his like ear space, sort of in his ears, but it's like phased through him and stuff, and it's a cute little moment there. But so Agnes shows up, seemingly already knowing that the babies are crying, which Vision's a little like, huh? And there's this kind of weird out of character moment for Agnes where Vision is sort of like, oh, you know what? You don't have to worry about it. We'll take care of the kids. And Agnes just kind of like looks to Wanda, is like, should we take that again? Should we go back? And is just kind of nervous, and like everything's sort of very awkward. And it's got to be, it's this weird combination of like with Agnes and Herb when they were having their discussion about Geraldine and talking with Vision. Part of me wants to say that they're saying like, oh, we're all actors or something, but we've already seen that these characters are like stuck there, and it seems like the idea is that they're all prisoners, basically. Like they're stuck in this show, not even like they're playing their roles necessarily, but like they're subconsciously just doing this stuff, and they're not like weirded out by the kinds of things that they should be. But Vision seems to be like slowly becoming suspicious of everything that's going on, which is very interesting because you'd think like he is part of this setup, this whole thing that's going on. Vision's, like a piece of that, but he's growing kind of suspicious of it. And he kind of asks Wanda like what the deal is, but she's kind of brushing it off. And Vision finally is just like, oh my God, do you hear that? It's silence. And they look to the cribs because there's no babies in the cribs anymore. And they turn around and now Billy and Tommy are 5. They have spontaneously grown and are now 5 years old, which is very strange, obviously. Like it all of a sudden is like, wait, okay, so did Wanda do this? Are these children now real and they're doing it themselves? Like, is Vision messing with something that's making this happen? So we don't really know exactly what's going on, but now the kids are like 5. They are like precocious sitcom child age. And then we get our intro, which is like the Family Ties and Growing Pains intro there. But including Growing Pains has this thing in its intro where it shows like photographs of all the actors, but the implication is that's the characters they're playing, but them growing up from being like babies all the way through till the age they are in the show. And they do the same thing for Wanda, which none of it really lines up with Wanda's actual past. They do it for Vision as well. So you see like a baby with like the Vision head thing and like a child that looks like and it's so weird because Vision obviously was just created the size and person thing that he is. So he wasn't a child. He wasn't any of those things. It was just kind of like a very weird sort of sequence. They also have in the credits introducing Tommy and Billy, which makes sense since they're now kind of part of this show in a show. So now, yeah, Tommy and Billy, they're 5. Simultaneous with this, and now it seems like we're going to be getting parallel stories of Wanda's show, the actual WandaVision show in a show, and what's going on in the Sword headquarters, where Monica's being grilled about what's going on, and she says that she was kind of overcome with Wanda's emotions. Like, she was in her head, she was kind of controlling her not her thoughts, but like controlling her and like making her like a part of this show. And she said that it was like grief. It was like she was drowning in it. We get Jimmy Woo and Darcy, and it seems like on the outside, they are our main cast at this point. We have Monica Rambeau, we have Darcy Lewis, we have Jimmy Woo, and they're kind of our main 3 on the outside. On the inside, we have obviously Wanda and Vision, and we have, I guess Agnes is kind of the next one there. Norm is also relatively common in there too, but I think that's kind of where like most of that's going to be. Wanda is now being considered as like the one who's in control and is like the villain of everything that's going on according to Sword. And Director Hayward is even like making a point of focusing on her being an opponent to the Avengers, her willfully joining up with Hydra, the explosion in Lagos that was accidental but was her like doing, and then the airport fight in I think it was Frankfurt or near Frankfurt in Germany. So there's kind of a clear, like, you know, Director Hayward does not trust Wanda at all. It is trying to like deal with her as like a villain kind of situation. He considers her a terrorist. Interestingly, they talk about how Vision, presumably after the events of Infinity War, because he didn't get dusted. He was just dead. So since, I guess, 2018, he has been, his corpse has been stored at Sword headquarters, and they were like dismantling him and like kind of studying him and stuff. Which is kind of interesting, seeing as he was built by Helen Cho's Cradle. So it's like, I don't really know what the deal with Helen at this point is, Dr. Cho, but like, I'm all like, can we refocus? There we go. But like that technology should be knowable, I would think. I don't know. So he's also made of vibranium, so that's like a whole thing, or at least, some kind of vibranium alloy or something. But yeah, so she winds up going in, breaking in, grabbing Vision's body and leaving with it and heading for Westview. So I guess I might have been right when I kind of wondered whether she was literally reanimating his corpse. So that's like a whole thing that's happening there. It explains why in the last episode, when she turns around after the incident with Geraldine, why he looks like his dead counterpart for a while. Like he looks just dead. So that's an entire thing here. And now Wanda's slowly becoming less and less cautious about using her powers. She creates... for starters, Agnes shows up. I got to back up a second here. Billy and Tommy, in a little sitcom moment, are washing a stray dog that they found. They're washing it in the sink, and it's a little, maybe like a terrier mix or something. And they're washing it, and Wanda's kind of like, oh, well, I guess kind of deal. And as Vision comes in and is sort of like, this doesn't really seem like a good idea, Agnes shows up. Vision's kind of dressed up a little bit, and Wanda's like, why are you dressed up like that? And it's like, because I feel like we're going to be having guests any moment now. And that's when Agnes shows up with like a dog carrier / dog house. He's like, yeah, with the exact thing we needed at this exact moment. So Vision is clearly starting to understand that things are amiss in very specific ways. In fact, he does seem to be starting to wonder whether or not Wanda is involved in what's going on. But so she creates a little dog collar for the dog with a little name tag, and this is while Agnes is literally like bending over somewhere else, and Vision's like, you can't do that, she's right there. And she's like, well, you know what, I'm tired of hiding. So she's starting to become kind of agitated and is sort of losing that grip a little bit. But Vision is visibly like clearly not okay with it, and he kind of tries to deal with the dog thing by being like, yeah, they can't do that. So they set down the ultimatum that you can't have a dog until you turn 10. Comedy beat. And then they go, wait, no. And Billy and Tommy look at each other and then spontaneously become 10. So, again, unclear if Wanda's doing this at this point, or if Billy and Tommy are real now and also have the ability to age themselves up at will. Unclear if they can age themselves down, but they can at least age themselves up. So that's a whole thing. We'll be unpacking some of this stuff as we get to the end here. We head back to Sword. Darcy has nicknamed the anomaly, the Maximoff anomaly, the Hex, since it is both kind of a mind control, thing, and also the perimeter of it is hexagonal in shape, which is kind of a great... That's an amazing pun name for that. I kind of love that. And there's this kind of adorable discussion that goes on among our three on the outside as to like, oh, well, Wanda could have taken on Thanos if he didn't call down that airstrike. Oh, Wanda's pretty powerful. She's the most powerful of all of them. She probably could have done that. Oh, I don't know. Captain Marvel was doing pretty well for a while. Like, it's this cute little like wink to the audience about like fan theories of like who's the strongest Avenger and like all of that stuff. That was kind of a neat little moment. But Monica kind of notices like, wait, so I didn't come in with all those clothes. What happens when they change their appearance? And they go and examine the outfit that that Monica was wearing when she was thrown back out from the 70s version of Westview, and grabs Jimmy's gun and fires at it. And the revelation being that the clothes are bulletproof. And it's not just because like, oh, they're enhanced with something, but when she went arrived in Westview, she was wearing Kevlar vest, among other things, with her equipment. So the material that constitutes her like outfit from the 70s version of the show is 87% Kevlar. So it's not so much that they are all pre-existing clothes that are being like swept in and out, or, you know, it's not like they're necessarily just, just going like, oh, instead, poof, now the thing you're wearing is this. Instead, she's literally rewriting reality and reconstituting all these things. And so there's kind of a discussion on like what is real at this point in there. Is everything she's creating actually being rewritten into existence? This is where they decide like, okay, so when you go into the Hex, everything changes to suit the continuity of the show and the show. There's something on my monitor there. Everything's being reconstituted to suit the show and the show, so they have to figure out something they can send in that's not going to change, and their answer for that is this like 80s drone, literally a drone thing from the 80s. So it goes in and it's having trouble communicating, but it is able to still get in there. Doesn't change shape. They maintain communication with it, which is pretty good. There's an email that Vision manages to intercept. It's kind of unclear how this happens, but so this takes place in the 80s, and they're on what appear to be like Apple IIe style computers, which is consistent for the 80s. And then Vision says like, oh, let's surf like they're talking about going to surf the internet, which is, I mean, they work for Computational Systems Inc., which is a whole thing on its own. It looks like I think it's the Intellivision logo is kind of what their company like logo looks like. But so they're going to go on the internet, which is like a little, okay, if it was intranet or something like that would make more sense. But, and then Norm says like, cowabunga dude, which is, again, it's like, what? I feel like we're kind of becoming a little more anachronistic as time goes on here. But he intercepts a sword email talking about Darcy's findings about the quote Maximoff anomaly. And so the entire office stops what they're doing and just sits there and recites it without looking. Everybody is just aware of what's going on, and it's very fucking weird. And then Norm kind of just like, it's a joke. Can't you tell? None of it's real. At which point Vision grabs Norm and does something to him that all of a sudden he just is like, what? And he's talking about like he needs to find his phone so he can call his sister who's taking care of his sick dad. And so I guess there were notes that were on these profiles that talked about like, oh, Vision awakened Abalash Tandon and then released him. So I guess that was they had the props. They were doing stuff with they had made those props after they filmed most of the internal WandaVision stuff, and they didn't update those properly, so they're all, fully complete things. So there's some information on there that I guess was sort of inadvertent spoilers, but they also had Sit Amet as someone's name, so that's a whole thing too. But it's incredibly creepy shit. Abalash begs Vision not to save him, basically, and Vision freaking out just puts him back to being Norm again, who just kind of slips right back into the thing, and it's just like, whoa, okay. Vision is freaking out more and more as this episode goes on, which is telling. But anyway, the 80s drone arrives, and Wanda is talking with Billy and Tommy about like, what's up with Vision and like what's happening there. And then the dog is kind of like irritated at something outside. They go outside and there's the drone, which Wanda's not thrilled with. She does something with her powers. It's hard to tell, but Hayward says to take the shot, which Monica is like, whoa, this thing's not armed, right? And like, obviously Hayward's going over everyone's heads to just try and take out Wanda. She storms outside of the actual perimeter of this place with the drone and like throws it back to them, as she's got like 50 dudes with like rifles with laser mounts on them, all pointed at her, and she's like, you stay out of like, leave me alone, I'm here, you're not, that's it. And they're like, they have all these guns pointed at her, and it's like, well, sorry, we can't do that, this is a problem, you have to stop. And like Monica's like begging her, is like, please, you allowed me in there, you could see in my head, you knew who I was, like there must be some part of you that wants to fix this, which she then is like, nope, don't want any of that fixed. She does a little, power thing, and then all of the guns at once just turn on Hayward as she goes back into the hex, and the entire wall turns this like really bright red. I think that's the last time we actually see. Yeah, I think that's the last time we actually see outside of the hex in this episode, because then we go to the commercial. I don't think we go back to them at all for that, so maybe we'll see more of them in the next one. These commercials seem to have a lot of red imagery as well. I'm realizing there was the red light on the toaster. We had now we've got the red. There's like red juice. That's all a big thing in the episode for Lagos. Lagos paper towels for when you make a mess you didn't mean to. Oof, ouch. That one really hurts. Lagos is where the explosion that kicked off the Sokovia Accords took place. But yeah, so we come back from the commercial. They're looking for the dog because it ran away. And it seems like the actors are starting to push back a little bit. Like the mailman walks by and it's like, oh, don't you two worry, you'll find the dog. She won't let him out of town. And all right, bye. And like walks away, which is like, all right, that's kind of a weird thing there. But I guess the dog, Agnes had found the dog and was waiting for a moment where the kids weren't around to bring it back, because the dog had gotten into a azalea bush, eaten a bunch of azaleas, and died, which prompts this really interesting discussion between Wanda and the kids, where Wanda is kind of telling them, is like, yeah, you can't reverse death no matter how sad it makes us. Some things are forever. But the kids keep saying like, yeah, but you can fix dead. Like you can fix this, which Agnes is kind of. So Agnes wasn't put off by the sudden dog collar being created, or even the kids going from babies to 5 and then 5 to 10. But this bit suddenly makes her like, wait, you can do that? Like, so there's something might be happening there too. But they beg Wanda to bring back the dog. Sparky was what they named the dog. And they go back home, and they're kind of like, I don't think she does it in the end. Like, I don't think she actually brings the dog back. But Vision comes home, and it's night and all of that stuff, and starts a frank conversation with her about like saying, hey, I talked to Norm today. I took him out of your control, and I talked to him, and he told me what's going on. And like Wanda's kind of brushing off, being like, I don't know what you're talking about. That's ridiculous. And Vision even says like, you can't control me the way that you control them. You need to tell me what's going on here. And she, or rather, so the opposite of that, the way that it's presented is great, because he's like, you need to tell me what's going on. You can't control me the way you control them. And she kind of looks at him and says, can't I? And then the credits start rolling, and you're like, whoa, what the fuck? Like the in-universe sitcom credits start going, and it's just like, whoa, okay, that was a darkish kind of way for that to go. But the scene doesn't stop. Usually in an 80s sitcom, you do that, and like you get the screen will freeze, and you'll get a couple like frozen shots from around the episode of like, there's that. But so the credits are going, there's clapping, there's laughing and all this stuff, but they start fighting. Like they start having like a real argument, and Vision starts asking really difficult questions for her, like, what is the Maximoff anomaly? And she's like, I don't know what you're talking about. Everyone's fine. At which point he like flips out and is like, Norm has a family. He has a father and a sister, and you can't trap him here. You can't do that. And he is straight up yelling. Like he actually breaks the credits by walking into the other room. He's now furious. Like you've really seen, the only time you ever see him like really emote is like in an angry way is when he's being like attacked in Infinity War. But otherwise he keeps his cool generally. And this is him blowing up. Like he tells her like, stop lying to me. She's she's saying like, oh, I'm not lying to you, I'm not this, I'm not that. And saying like, I just is like saying like, I just want what's best for you. And he like flips out and says, you don't get to make that choice for me. Which, fair, yeah, all right. Vision actually reveals that he doesn't actually remember his life before Westview at all. He knows basically nothing about anything that happened before he died. Like, that's all gone. So when Wanda brought him back, it seems like, one, she started him fresh and had to like either tell him or like allow him to understand some basic information about himself so he could like function as a person. But also it seems like she kind of rebooted him in a way where he can begin again, but he's not actually like, he's not a construct. He's not like an illusion or anything. He's actually there. But so Wanda talks Vision down for a sec, but then he asks like, well, why are there no other kids in the neighborhood? And he's like, oh, there are. He's like, I walk past that playground every day and I've never seen another child in there. There's not a single one. And she says like, I don't know how any of this started in the first place. She finally actually seems to accept that something's up and something's wrong. And then the doorbell rings. And it's just like, oh, God, is this going to be Agnes showing up? Or is this going to be like one of those sitcom plots like, oh, the cops show up and he's going to jail or something? And then it was like, I wonder. All right. So the door opens, or Wanda goes over and opens the door, and Vision just stands where he is in the living room. She opens the door, and you see the back of someone's head, and you see kind of a lightly shaggy, very light-colored hair. And I was like, holy shit, they're doing it. They're bringing back Pietro. And they did. They brought back Pietro as played by Evan Peters from the X-Men universe, not Aaron Taylor Johnson, the one who played Pietro in Avengers Age of Ultron. This is the one who played Quicksilver in X-Men Days of Future Past and Apocalypse and Dark Phoenix and all that stuff. It's entirely the other Quicksilver, which is very interesting for about 1,000 reasons. And even Darcy, who's watching this show in a show from her like TV thing, is like, whoa, she recast Pietro? So now there's a couple possibilities here. One is this person is not Pietro in any capacity, and is just a dude, and this is more a wink to the audience, but otherwise at the end of the day he's not Pietro and he's just a person playing Pietro, in the same way that like the Davises are playing the Harts and that whole thing. Another possibility is that it's been a couple years for Wanda, more years for everybody else, but a couple years for Wanda since Pietro died. It's entirely possible that she doesn't remember him as well anymore, and so this is just what she's able to like cobble together, and that's what Pietro is to her. He has like a very New York-y kind of accent, which matches with hers in the universe, so like it's hard to tell how that plays into it too. But there's the possibility that it's supposed to be a Pietro Maximoff from some other universe, and she's altering reality so much that like she's pulling things from other universes now. Or fourth, and the most extreme one, and the one that simultaneously seems the most interesting and also the most as far as like it really destabilizes stuff, is it could literally be Quicksilver from the X-Men movies that's been pulled into this universe in some way. It was my jaw hit the fucking floor because I was expecting Aaron Taylor Johnson. I'm like, all right, so they're going to do a thing with him coming back and she's going to have to come to grips with both of them being dead. And now it's like, oh, this is a completely different thing. This is totally different. And not to mention, on the sword side of things, they mentioned earlier in the episode that everything that's happening is made real. It's not an illusion. It is real. Anything that happens there is made to be a real thing. So the kids, they apparently exist. They may actually have superpowers of their own. Maybe they don't, but it seems like they do. There's also now this Pietro that exists. What the hell is his deal? Who is that? Which version of Pietro is that? And there's also Vision, who seems to completely understand that Wanda is controlling everything, and he doesn't know what he even is. He has no idea who or what he is. And even on the outside, they're like, what happens if he leaves? What happens if he leaves the town? What happens to him at that point? My assumption is the moment he walks out of the town, he just collapses over dead again, like, because it's just a body that's being animated. But is he actually alive for real? There is a lot that's going on here. The fact that Billy and Tommy are now 10 means they're most likely going to miss out on the perfect possible hijinks of, like, you know, having twins the age of Mary-Kate and Ashley Olsen when they were on Full House for the 90s episode, which I assume is next. My assumption is they're doing 50s, 60s, 70s, non-TV episode, 80s, 90s, 2000s non-TV episode, and then the finale, maybe, or they're going to keep blending them at this point. But they've done the 80s, so now they've really got the 90s, the 2000s, and I guess the 2010s. The 90s, it seems obvious they're going to do like a Full House thing, but they could also do some like Family Matters or, I don't know. The 90s felt like it was so overwhelmingly sitcom-y and family sitcom-y in particular that like there's 1,000 things you could choose from there. The 2000s, I'm less sure about, because when I think sitcoms from like right around the 2010 mark, my brain jumps to stuff like, for better or for worse, there's The Big Bang Theory. There's also How I Met Your Mother, which could be a thing that they go for with some of this, given the confusing nature of how things are working between Wanda and Vision now. As far as like sitcoms from the 2000s, though, I'm gonna see if I can. Nope. I'm gonna see if I can pull up a couple real quick, just because to jog my memory, because I'm just like I don't even know what works for those. Was that 70s show? I mean, that doesn't work really because they already did the 70s as unless they reboot it, unless they go and do like a reboot on it and they go to, weird levels with it and they go to 70s show. They could do a Stranger Things thing for a 2010s episode, since that was super, it wasn't really like a sitcom, but it still like works for that. Yeah, there's a lot of like animated ones that are in there. That 80s show, clearly that's the one they're going to do. Yeah, I don't know. There's a lot of like mediocre stuff that came out in the 2000s for TV, for sitcoms. How I Met Your Mother started in 2005 though, so there's a decent chance that could be a thing there. What was the other one I said? Big Bang Theory? That one was 2007, it looks like, so less likely, especially since it only ended in 2019 somehow. Clearly, it's going to be a take on Arliss. That'll be it. But yeah, so that is what I've got for this episode. There's a lot to soak in. There's a lot going on there. I would love to hear what you guys' theories are about what's going to happen next between Vision, between the twins, between Pietro, who's now in here all of a sudden. Yeah. Where do we think this is going to end? Is it going to end with like a Wanda kind of accepts the loss of Vision and I guess the loss of Pietro as well? Or is it going to be some other thing entirely? Is she going to lose it and that leads into, Doctor Strange or something when that comes out? There's a lot going on here. I would love to hear what you guys' theories are. You can throw some comments down below. Feel free to, throw a like on the video. Feel free to subscribe as well. I'm probably going to be doing videos for these on all of the Marvel shows just because I like them. And there, I think, are going to be like 11 shows in phase 4 somehow. I don't actually know how that's supposed to work. That's like a lot of material. But yeah, there's like immediately after the show ends, there's going to be the Falcon and the Winter Soldier as a thing. So I'll probably cover that also. So thank you guys for watching. I'll catch you guys later and we'll see how the rest of this season goes. We got 4 episodes left. See you later. Bye.